It's Friday, August 8th, 2025. Trump giveth and Trump taketh away. Texas isn't the only state planning to vaporize Democrat congressional seats. And another edition of Ask or Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Well, Trump giveth and Trump taketh away at the same press conference the other day where President Trump said the Jeffrey Epstein thing was, quote, bull beep. He also had this to say about Operation Warp Speed.
You were the driving force behind Operation Warp Speed, these mRNA vaccines that are the gold standard.
Right.
Now your health secretary is pulling back all the funding for research. He's saying that the risks outweigh the benefits, which puts him at odds with
Research
the entire
on what?
medical community and with you. What is going on?
Research on what?
Into mRNA vaccines.
Well, we're going to look at that. We're talking about it, and they're doing a very good job. And, you know, that is a pass. With Operation Warp Speed was, whether you're Republican or Democrat, considered one of the most incredible things ever done in this country. The efficiency, the way it was done, the distribution, everything about it has been amazing. But, you know, that was now a long time ago. And we're on to other things. But we are speaking about it. We have meetings about it.
So there's Trump saying that Operation Warp Speed, which gave way to the COVID jabs, which gave way to the COVID mandatory jabs under the Biden administration. Yes, that was Biden's responsibility, is, quote, one of the most incredible things ever done in this country. So Trump taketh away and Trump also giveth. The administration is making a change to the H-1B program starting in September, forcing all renewals of H-1B visas to do mandatory interviews, which makes the entire process grind to basically a halt, at least a lot slower. This is good news. H-1B visas have been used and abused by big companies to basically replace the domestic labor force with cheap foreign labor, think from India. So that's a good thing. Also, the Trump administration and Trump himself announced the Department of Commerce is going to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern day facts and figures. And importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024, people who are in our country illegally, Trump says, will not be counted in the census. Thank you for your attention in this matter, he said in a Truth Social post. Isn't that just a perfect encapsulation of President Trump? There are things, this entire administration, I think, overall has been fantastic. Fantastic. And then on the same day, you basically get the news that the H-1B visa program is going to grind to a halt in September, and we're going to do a new census, and we're not going to count illegal aliens in the census, which will impact congressional districts and potentially electoral votes. That's just a perfect encapsulation of the Trump era, I think. Because I think multiple things can be true at the same time. There are some objectively good things happening. Very good things happening. Things that a typical run-of-the-mill, think Jeb Bush Republican from the last really generation of the Republican Party would never even touch with a 10-foot pole. And you've also got things that are incredibly frustrating to his base, like his comments on Operation Warp Speed. Well, the census is not the only thing that could impact the number of seats Republicans could actually contend for in the House of Representatives next year. We've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about Texas and their redistricting attempt, maybe vaporizing as many as 5 Democrat-held seats. Well, Florida is now going to join that party. They just redistricted, or is that actually a word? They just went through a round of redistricting back in the 2022 midterms. Well, the Florida House Speaker just announced the Congressional Redistricting Committee. Governor Ron DeSantis has said he's ready to quickly get a map done before the midterms. The map comes after the Florida Supreme Court upheld the ambitious GOP map that got rid of race-based districts in 2022. A +1 GOP seat minimum goal is what the plan is for the Florida redistricting plan. So there's only so much more gerrymandering that Republicans can do in Florida. Or actually, if you want to call it gerrymandering, you can. I think it's gerrymandering. You're just using the left's tool against them. So if these are the new rules, these are the new rules, but whatever. Drawing fair districts, however you want to couch that. Florida is going to join the party with Texas in order to try to fight back against what the Democrats are doing with redistricting and trying to shore up and defend the Republican majority in the House. Before we get to story number 3 on our Friday 5-pack, just want to say thank you to everybody who recommended the AM update this week. I saw all of you replying to, I think it was Matt Van Swole's post, looking for a new drive time conservative podcast for the morning drive. Lots of people recommended the OG at Real AM Update on X, this here podcast. Not the Megyn Kelly one. Love Megyn Kelly, but she stole my name. That's just a fact, Jack. Lots of people just recommended this, and that means a lot to me. You got a lot of new followers over on X, so thank you to each and every one of you. And if you haven't done so recently or have already done so, whichever one, leave me a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice, iTunes, Spotify, what have you. Always appreciate those 5-star reviews. Would love to get up to around, let's say, 1,500 by the end of the year. I think we can do that. We're already, I think, between iTunes and Spotify, doing some quick math here, we're about 800, 1,250. Yeah, so if we just need 250 more 5-star reviews across the two platforms. So if you could give me a 5-star review, that would be much appreciated. Story number 3 on our Friday 5-pack. This is Holly. She is the woman who was brutally beaten in Cincinnati. You saw the photos and videos of her just lying on the pavement, motionless. She actually gave a press conference the other day to talk about the need for more police in Cincinnati.
First and foremost, I just want to say that I don't want to relive what happened to me, 8 or 9 days ago. I'm here to talk about the future and how we can change it, how we can prevent this from happening to anybody else. These heinous crimes have to stop. I never want this to happen to anyone else, especially a mother, a daughter, somebody who is loved. So I just know what it's done to my family, not just to me. And I think that moving forward, we do need more accountability. And I definitely think that, we need more police officers. But like he said, the judges who are just letting people out with a slap. The man who attacked me and might have permanently damaged me forever should never have been on the streets, ever. And the fact that he had just gotten out of jail previously for something he should have been in there for years, it's really sad to me because I can't even fathom how many other people who have been attacked by the same type of man over and over and over. In Toledo, in Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, our streets are being taken over and nobody is doing anything. I am so sad. And I need to be the voice to help all of the victims that never got their justice.
That is Holly. That is the woman who was beaten senseless on the streets of Cincinnati just trying to go to a friend's birthday party. I think that was the story with her case. And there she is out of the hospital now, standing in front of the lectern with a black eye, bruised face, just saying, please, we need more police officers. The guy who they arrested, who beat me up, who literally curb stomped me, should have never been out in the first place. God bless Holly. That takes a lot of chutzpah. And how many stories have we seen? I mean, I just saw a story out of New York, and this was a viral video not that long ago, I think a couple of years ago. CCTV footage showed a young man and his girlfriend on the way home from a party on the streets of New York City, and this young man was just stabbed to death right in front of his girlfriend. And the perpetrator just kept on walking. And the young man's girlfriend, who watched her boyfriend just get stabbed to death right in front of her, refused to identify to police the perpetrator because she was afraid of perpetuating racial injustice or something like that. So it's rare when you see incidents like this, where a woman gets just mercilessly beat to a pulp, coming out and saying, we need more police officers. We need to crack down on crime. This is unacceptable. So good for Holly. Really appreciate her. Quickly, story number 4 on our Friday 5-pack. This caught my eye in international news. There were whispers about this earlier this week, but I couldn't find any confirmations until now. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel announced on Thursday his country will forge ahead with its plan to take over all of Gaza, but added he doesn't want to keep it and he pledged to hand it over to Arab forces. He said, quote, "We intend to take over all of Gaza, assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance that is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel." The latter distinction would likely mean a country subscribing to President Trump's Abraham Accords would be selected by the Jewish state. I basically think that means Saudi Arabia at this point. Probably Saudi Arabia. I mean, Hamas and the so-called Palestinians are the red-headed stepchildren. I mean, you think Iran is the red-headed stepchild of that region of the world? What's even worse than red-headed stepchild in this analogy? Whatever that is the so-called Palestinians. So I'm not sure Saudi Arabia would necessarily be glad to take over Gaza, but I think they would have their hand forced. I think they're basically being put in a situation, put up or shut up. Keep these people under control for the next generation, 2 generations, and hopefully we don't have to worry about what we've seen over the past 2 generations, 3 generations, 4 generations in that part of the world. Finally, this got my eye as well. One of my favorite preachers, teachers, theologians of all time, R.C. Sproul. You might have seen that GIF that's pretty popular, where he's just yelling at the audience, "What is wrong with you people?" You know what? I don't think I had ever seen the video that's actually associated with. Well, I did the other day, thanks to CrossPolitic, at CrossPolitic on X. Listen to this question and answer segment from one of his conferences before he passed away.
If God is slow to anger and patient, since God is slow to anger, we're always learning. Since God is slow to anger and patient, then why, when man first sinned, was his wrath and punishment so severe and long-lasting?
Time out. Didn't we just have that question a second ago?
We did.
Yeah,
it's a little,
I think
little
did.
nuance.
That God's punishment for Adam was so severe. This creature from the dirt defied the everlasting holy God. After that, God had said, "The day that you shall eat of it, you shall surely die." And instead of dying, Thanatos, that day, he lived another day and was clothed in his nakedness by pure grace and had the consequences of a curse applied for quite some time. But the worst curse would come upon the one who seduced him, whose head would be crushed by the seed of the woman. And the punishment was too severe? What's wrong with you people? I'm serious. I mean, this is what's wrong with the Christian church today. We don't know who God is, and we don't know who we are.
A freaking men. R.C. Sproul. You know, there's variations of the question that he was asked, which, just to restate it, was, you know, since God is so loving and merciful, why was his first punishment so severe? That sounds like a rational question to our finite human minds. But basically, as R.C. Sproul laid out there, that's not a rational question. That is a tantrum. It's not a question, it's a tantrum. We have a very low view of God and a high view of human beings. When we come back, it's another round of Ask or Tell Me Anything. I'll answer your questions. It's coming up next. Well, I checked an item off of my bucket list this week. What would it be like to feel as a 32-year-old like I needed a cane to walk? I got the answer to that question this week. Doing well here. Everybody's okay. Nothing to see here. I think I slipped a disc in my back a few weeks ago. And now sitting down is the devil. So we'll see how long I can go for Ask or Tell Me Anything. In between recording these segments, I had to get up and walk around. Boy, howdy, I can barely walk. Pray for me. Appreciate it. Now let's go to Piss Fingers. Interesting screen name there. What if it wasn't recorded in Scripture, but every other time Jesus went to someone's house, they were like, "Thank you, Rabbi, for raising our daughter from the dead." And not to impose, but this table leg has been a little wobbly for years now, and it's been driving us nuts. Well, that's an interesting question, Piss Fingers, one that I have not considered before. Apparently, you have. So let's consider this here together. What was the real mission of Christ's earthly ministry? What was it? Was it to heal people? No. Was it to fix wobbly legs? No. Was it to, what was it? Was it to drop some really cool sayings? Nope. To be a great moral teacher? Nope. Jesus' earthly mission was to testify to the truth. To testify to the truth that he was the Son of God. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish, but have eternal life. And God didn't send his Son to the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. That the world through him might be saved. That was Jesus' mission in his earthly ministry. So, applying that to this question, it all depends on the motivation of the person asking it. If there is a motivation possible that was not just of, "Hey, we've got a squeaky wheel here, can you fix this?" If it is possible to have some sort of motivation other than, "Let's take advantage of this guy," I'm sure Jesus would have responded with kindness. If the question like that was asked out of laziness or vanity or taking advantage of Jesus, I'm not so sure that his response would be what we would think of as nice. I'll just put it there. So, not sure that philosophers have necessarily, or theologians have dissected that question over the years, but did my best nonetheless. Marathon says, what do you do when you go into a store or restaurant and the person helping or waiting on you is a dude who feels pretty? For me, I can't even make eye contact. Just yesterday, a major clothing retailer and a dude in a dress was working the return counter. I just want to vomit. Well, I treat them like another person. I really do. Look them in the eye. If there is ever a situation where I have to use pronouns, I'm just not going to lie. Usually those situations don't come up. But I treat them like a normal person, even though they would like you to not treat them like a normal person. If it's a dude who feels pretty, I just treat him like a dude. That's all. And if there's ever a situation where pronouns come up, I'm ready and willing to use those, the correct pronouns, not the ones that they want me to use. You know, being in the world but not of the world means that you have to deal with these types of people. How do you know that an attractive looking woman at a department store, young woman, how do you know that she's not on OnlyFans? Now, of course, that sin is in secret. The sin of transgenderism is out in the open for everyone to see. So yes, there is a difference there. But you have to see these people as human beings who are sinners, not just as the construct they want you to see. And when they put you in a situation where they want you to sacrifice the truth or to disregard the truth, you have to say, sorry, I love you too much. You know, internally, you don't have to say that exact phrase out loud. But that's kind of how I view that. So it's not always going to be comfortable, but you have to be ready and willing to just say the truth. So, you know, eye contact avoidance, whatever, you know, yeah, it's really weird. It's really uncomfortable, but it's the reality. It's the reality. You're not always going to just be able to avoid these types of people. Daniel says, I asked last week what you smoked this summer and advice on pork ribs. I tried the 3-2-1 method you mentioned. Mostly did your steps. Didn't have enough foil. Used butcher paper instead. They were amazing. Far superior to my first attempt, before, during, and after photos included. So there's the before photos. You need to get a little bit more rub on the lower left-hand side of those ribs, Daniel. So there's the before photo. There's the during photo. Those look really good. You got that nice red finish. And then the after, I think that looks like slathered barbecue sauce. And guys, when it turns black, when you're smoking low and slow, that does not mean that it is burnt. That means that you've got a good bark on there. That's the tastiest part. And boy, howdy, it did look really good at the end there, Daniel. So good job. Moving on next to Victoria, who asks, what would be your ideal vacation? What country would you like to visit? You know, I was just having this conversation the other day. I think domestically, ideal vacation is somewhere out west or in the southwest. Just beautiful country. The desolation of the American desert is beautiful. And just this change in scenery so quickly, few-hour drive, from going through Texas where it's just flat, into New Mexico where you start to get a little bit more mountainous, and then western New Mexico where it's desert, and then Arizona where it's desert and then mountain again. And it's just beautiful country. I love going to the Grand Canyon. I've done that a couple of times. So domestically, that would be my ideal vacation. I think an international vacation would be probably to the British countryside. I would love to go to the British countryside, somewhere that has not been overrun by the Muslim invasion of that country. I think that would still be very cool. Or France, the French countryside. That would be a cool vacation as well. But I've been to I've never been to Rome, but I've been to Paris. I've been to London. Been to Geneva. Beautiful, beautiful cities, but it's just overrun with tourists, and I just think it's hard to really see anything of great import there without being subjected to the hordes of non-Europeans. Let's just call them that. Light the Dark California says, how would you explain the American church's obsession with debates over music styles, traditions, or theology to a Christian in Uganda or Nigeria, where believers walk miles to worship, face persecution, and find joy in Jesus alone? So how would I explain the American church's obsession with tiddlywinks to those who are under constant threats of life and limb? I would say God is exceedingly gracious to you in a way that is hard to understand or comprehend until we get to glory. It's not to say that he's not exceedingly gracious to us here in the United States, exceedingly merciful to us here in the West, but exceedingly gracious, because those people, and I'm not saying this, I don't wish to live in Uganda or Nigeria as a Christian. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying that those people get to experience a communion and an intimate relationship with their Maker out of necessity that we don't in the United States. So I would say you're exceedingly blessed that you're not plagued with these stupid debates. So keep the faith. That's kind of what I would say. Chris says, Aaron, I'd like to invite you to come down and check out the DMVR Sports Car Club this Sunday at Bell Avenue Business Park. There are other sports besides football. You can do a ride-along. However, the sport requires 2 balls. Ask Mike Pike. Mike Pike, one of our state senators here in the state where I come from, Iowa. DMVR Sports Car Club this Sunday at Bell Avenue Business Park. Well, Chris, I'll consider it. I've never heard of that before. I'm not sure if this is like a remote control car, or if this is like the full-size, real-deal classic cars, but thanks for the invite. Appreciate it. Ryan asks, what response is warranted to Christians who defend a small Christian business that knowingly employs a man who thinks he is a woman? I would say, get behind me, Satan. You're in the wrong. You're just in the wrong. Knowingly employing a man who is living in outward, unrepentant sin. This is the difference, again, between what I've always said, the difference between homosexuality and the scourge of transgenderism. Homosexuality is a perversion of reality. Transgenderism is a rejection of reality. And when you are outwardly living in a rejection of reality, guess then what naturally follows? You demand everyone else around you. Everyone you come into contact with. You demand that they reject reality as well by affirming your rejection of reality. So this is the difference between, let's say, employing a man who is living in some sort of private sin and a man who is living in unrepentant, open, very public sin. That is the difference, and you're just in the wrong. You just cannot accommodate that on any level. Zealous says, Aaron, what do you think? Can we get a new word, when referring to the combination of the swamp and the intelligence security? Zealous says, swamp intelligence, swamp security. So a new word referring to the combination of the swamp, the bureaucratic state, and the intelligence or security, the deep state. The deep swamp, I guess you could call that. I just think the deep state and the swamp are two different things. If you want to combine them together, I guess you could just call it the beast. That's what I would say. Just the beast. The combination of the bureaucratic state and the deep state, it's just the beast. That's what I would refer to it as. My back is starting to give out here. Let's go. I got a lot of submissions this week, and I appreciate you, and I love the great response. I'll try to save some of these for next week. James, let's end with this one. James says, have you heard of the detransitioning newbie Christian Nisa Powers, who's been gaining traction on social media while documenting his journey towards Christ and learning what it means to become a godly man? No, I have not heard about that, but I'll just say the same thing that I say about any new Christian who is very publicly in repentance and publicly kind of documenting their faith journey as a baby Christian. Do not discourage them, but do not put them into positions. Do not elevate them into positions of leadership right away. Don't do that. That's the only thing. And pray for them. Don't discourage them. Don't elevate them at the same time. But that's really cool. So, again, this is kind of Russell Brand phenomenon. It's really cool to see, how he's coming to faith, how he's dealing with some of the demons and some of the past sins that have been exposed, even since he's become a believer. But that's just the cautionary tale, especially in this world where you can go viral for basically anything, for good or ill. So that's cool. Nisa Powers is the name. Thanks for letting us know about that, James. And thanks for listening this week to the AM Update. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm not sure if Bella and I will be back with No Suck Saturday tomorrow. As I said, with a slip disc or whatever I've got going on back there. It's been 3 weeks. Pretty sure it's a disc issue. I'm doing the typical dude thing and refusing to go see an expert about this, but that may change next week. We'll see. But sitting down is really tough. Getting up from sitting down is the tough part, I should say. Enough about me. Have a great weekend. Back at it again on Monday.